When Spanish explorers first came to the Philippines, they were really surprised by what they saw. Men and women were covered from head to toe in amazing tattoos. To the Spanish, these marks seemed wild, but to Filipinos, they were sacred. They were symbols of bravery, who they were, and life itself. Before ink became fashion, it was a language, carved not on paper, but on skin, and nowhere in Southeast Asia was that language more beautiful, or more feared, than in the islands of the Philippines. Centuries before Spain's galleons appeared, Filipino warriors and nobles wore tattoos as living stories, each mark a memory, a victory, a spiritual vow. These designs weren't random art, they were history you could wear. But when colonization began, those same designs were declared sinful, marks of the devil. And so began a long campaign to erase one of the Philippines' most powerful traditions, the art of the Batok. From Luzon to Mindanao, nearly every pre-colonial tribe practiced tattooing. In the Visayas, warriors known as pintados, literally the painted ones, covered their bodies in swirling geometric lines. Early Spanish chroniclers wrote that Visayan men looked like bronze statues, patterned with blue silk. Among the Kalinga and Ifugao of the Cordilleras, tattooing was a rite of passage. Each design had meaning: a chest pattern for valor, an armband for a successful hunt, dots for protection, and spirals to honor ancestors. Tattoos were earned, not bought. A man could not receive certain marks until he had proven himself in battle or service to his village. For women, tattoos symbolized beauty, fertility, and maturity. This system made every Filipino body unique, a living record of achievements and community ties. The process was called batok or patik. It used soot or charcoal mixed with water or plant oils, tapped into the skin with a bamboo stick tipped with a thorn or bone needle. There were no machines, no modern ink. The rhythm was steady: tap, 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 each strike driving pigment beneath the skin. The pain was part of the ceremony. To endure it without flinching was a sign of bravery. Patterns varied across islands. In Kalinga, bold centipede and python motifs symbolized strength. In Visayas, scrolls and waves echoed the sea. In Mindanao, flowing lines represented protection and ancestry. These were not random decorations. They were coded stories of who you were and what you had done. For ancient Filipinos, tattoos carried deep spiritual weight. They weren't just marks of pride, they were shields. Warriors believed tattoos gave them courage in battle and guided their souls to the afterlife. Each line was a prayer etched into flesh, calling on ancestors for strength. When a person died, these marks helped spirits recognize them in the next world. A body without tattoos was seen as unfinished, a story left untold. When the Spanish first saw these tattooed bodies in the 1500s, they were fascinated and horrified. Missionaries described Filipinos as painted savages. Soldiers nicknamed the Visayans pintados, recording in journals how tattoos covered every inch of their skin except the face. To the Spaniards, tattoos symbolized paganism, resistance, and everything they sought to suppress. Conversion to Christianity required cleansing not just of beliefs but of bodies, so they banned tattooing. They told Filipinos their sacred marks were sinful, signs of heathen life. Anyone caught practicing batok could be punished, beaten, fined, or publicly shamed. Over time, the ban worked. By the 1700s, tattooing had disappeared from most lowland areas. Only remote mountain tribes, untouched by colonial control, kept the tradition alive. In the Visayas, where tattoos used to be very fancy, the art almost disappeared. Spanish priests told new converts to wash away their old marks. New rules about clothing made Filipinos cover their bodies, hiding the visual culture that once showed who they were. It's funny, but the same Spanish people who said tattoos were bad also drew pictures of them. They were fascinated by what they were destroying. These drawings are now some of the best proof we have of the lost tattoo culture of the islands. While the lowlands were taken over, the mountains fought back. Among the Kalinga people and other groups in the Cordillera Mountains, tattooing continued. Every design had to be earned. Fighters who came back from battle with proof of their bravery were given chest tattoos called biking. These were wide lines across their chest that said, "I have protected my people." For women, tattoos decorated their arms and shoulders, showing their social standing and beauty. The process was still a community event, done by a tattoo master using methods that were hundreds of years old. It survived not because it was hidden, but because it was sacred. Now, let's jump to today, and one name has become famous worldwide, Ankara, Wan Nan, Batder. Whang-Od Ogai. Born around 1917 in Kalinga, Whang-Od learned Batok from her father and became one of the last living traditional tattoo artists, a Mamba Batok. For many years she tattooed warriors who came back from headhunting trips. Later she tattooed tourists and young people looking to connect with their past. Whang-Od's art brought global attention back to a Filipino tradition that was almost gone. UNESCO and people who study culture now see her as a living national treasure. Because of her, Batok has changed from a nearly lost ritual into a symbol of cultural pride and something that keeps going. Today, young Filipinos are bringing back traditional tattoo designs. Not for fashion, but to show who they are. They study old patterns, talk to elders, and use tattooing as a way to get back their history. But bringing it back in a good way means being respectful. True, Batok is earned, not just copied. Many people who practice it say that tribal marks should be guided by cultural meaning, not just how they look. This new movement mixes art and family history, showing that even after hundreds of years of being stopped, the spirit of Batok still lives. Scientists who study people and genes are now working together to save this important heritage. They write down information about the colors, methods, and designs. They look at tattoo patterns found on old mummies from nearby areas. And they find language connections between Philippine Batok and tattooing traditions across the Polynesian islands. The evidence shows that Filipino tattoo culture might be one of the oldest continuous body art systems in the world. It's older than Japan's Irezumi, and even older than Polynesian tatau. This goes against the old stories from colonial times that said Filipinos were uncivilized. In truth, they used one of the world's most complex ways of communicating with symbols. When Spain made tattoos illegal, they weren't just attacking skin, they were attacking memory. By removing the marks, they hoped to get rid of the values those marks stood for: bravery, community, spiritual strength, and equality. But history doesn't stay buried. Every time someone gets a traditional pattern today, every time a scholar studies Batok, every time a Kalinga elder tells her story, that lost part of history comes back. The Spanish managed to stop the art for hundreds of years, but they didn't erase it. Walk through Kalinga today, and you'll still see older people with tattoos worn by time. Each line tells a life story, each design connects different generations. Batok is no longer a sign of fighting back, it's a sign of survival. It proves that Filipino identity isn't defined by what the colonizers allowed, but by what Filipinos kept alive. The story of Filipino tattoos isn't just about ink, it's about being strong and bouncing back. For the rest of the world, tattoos are decorations. For ancient Filipinos, they were destiny, proof of who they were and what they believed in. Spain tried to get rid of that, but the designs survived in the mountains, on the skin of elders, and in the memory of the nation. Today, they're coming back, stronger, prouder, and more meaningful than ever. The Filipino tattoos Spain tried to erase are once again being written across new generations, this time not as marks of fighting back, but as symbols of pride.